So the next thing we are going to do is to create the visual part so the player can see the high scores. And for that I will need to add two assets to the project. First asset that I'll be adding is a high score background, and I've simply just made like this symbol shape here with high score written up here. It's tilted a little, and I've used a old like arcade font to make it like look a little like an arcade game or something. So basically you'll just have to create your own sprite, or you can download my project and use the sprites from that project, and then simply just import them into the project. So just take the high score background and drag it into your asset folder, and inside the asset folder we can just create a new folder called sprites and then drag it in here. Remember to select your sprite and make sure the texture type is set to sprite 2D and UI. Besides that, we will need to have a font, and the font that I'll be using is the font that I just showed you up here, that one I'm using for high scores, and that's the one I'm going to use throughout this tutorial. The font is called Press Start. Press Start to play, I guess. And I have added a link in the description below to download it. I didn't create it and I don't take credit for it. I can't remember who created it, but I will make sure that there's a direct download link to this font. If you want to use any other font, you can simply just find it and import it into the project like this. Because in Unity you can simply just take the fonts and then apply to the elements that you want to use that specific font. Okay, so now we have our elements that we need for creating this. So the next step is to add them to the scene. So we have to add a new UI and then select image. So go to your hierarchy, click create, select UI and then select an image. And this image is simply going to be our high score background, so we might as well rename it to background. When you have found that, you can place it in the middle of the screen, and you can select the sprite as a source image here and then set native size to make it a little larger. As you can see, mine is a little too large, so I'm going to select the tool here to the far right and then hold shift down, left shift, then just scale it down so that it fits the size that I will need. Let's make it a little larger. There we go. Okay. And then I would like it for it to stay at the same position no matter what. So I'm going to select the center here and select the top left corner here as the anchor point. So the distance is going to be the same to the top left corner no matter what resolution I played in. But if we play the game now, you will notice that it positions itself up here, and that's because the canvas isn't set up correctly at the moment. So you simply have to select the canvas and then go to the canvas scaler, the UI scale mode, and select constant scale with screen size. There we go. If your background moved a little, then just reposition it so that it fits the position you want it in, and then just run the game again. And now you'll see it scales with the screen size so that it fits at all times. Okay, so first of all, I would like to add some headlines to this high score. I would like to have a rank, a name, and a score, for example. So we will have to add a new element. So just right click on your backgrounds, select UI and select an image. And here you can simply just right click on the image and remove it, because we don't need the image, we need the element itself. Click on the image, press F2 and rename it to titles. The titles need to be in the top here, so we can simply just zoom in here and then select the area by resizing it and select the area that these titles should be in. So now that we have the parent element, we can add the child element, which is the text themselves. So right click on titles, go to UI and select a text. And this text is going to be the text that is writing rank, for example. Just like that. Then we'll have to set up the rank text so that it looks like something from that fits the headline, for example. So to make it look like that text up here, we can add some different things to it. We can change the color to white, and we can take the font here and replace that Arial font. And then of course we need to place it at the correct position. And I think I want to try to, I don't want to change these. We can make this font a little bigger, try to select best fit, and then say that we should put it to 15 or something. And then just place it where you want it, just like this. Then you can basically rename it to rank. And if you want an outline on it, you can see there's an outline on the high score up here. If you want an outline here, you can basically add component and write outline. Just add that, and then there comes like a little outline on the text here, as you can see. You can try to play it and maximize to see how it looks, as you can see here. So then when we have created the rank, we can create the name and the score. So just duplicate the rank and duplicate it one more time. Then we are going to rename the one to name and the other one to score. And you can basically decide yourself where you want to place them. If you want it to be further down or further up, it's like basically up to you. Just take this one. So basically we need to move them later to make sure that they have the right position and everything compared to the scores underneath. Right now we can put them at the same Y position. Let's see what is the original one, 5.5. Select the rank, take the Y position and copy it and paste it on the others here. So we're sure that they have the same position. Then we need to rename this, so instead of rank, write name. And then we write score here. Maybe you want it the other way around actually. Let's just make this one into score and this one into name. That's how I want it. You can of course change it if that's what you want. Just gonna write it all with caps here. There we go. So we have rank, name and score. And the reason that I put this larger gap here is because the name might be a little longer than the score. For example, it's very rare you have points where you get like millions of points or something in games, but the name might be a little longer. So I placed a little to the left instead of just placing in the middle. So the next thing we will need to do is to add the part for the score. And you can basically make the titles a little smaller here so it doesn't take up that much space underneath, because we will need this line here to be aligned with the area with the scores. So just close the title here and right click on the background, click on UI and create a new image. And this image is going to be our scores. And again, we will remove the image like this. And then we will resize it so that it fits. Let's see, now it aligns fine with, as you can see here, it aligns with the bottom of that. Just enlarge it so that it takes up most of the space here, so that it goes to the line in the bottom here. Let's try to go down. There we go, and try to align it with the borders of your background. There we go. Okay, you can always change this later if it doesn't fit totally. And this one we would like to actually stretch. So select stretch down here. And you know what? We actually don't need to align it in the bottom here, because I would like to make it stretch itself. So just put it up here because it's going to resize itself. I forgot about that. So just make sure that it fits in the sides here. You don't need to make sure that it fits in the height. Okay. So we can create an example. Let's see. Sorry if I'm thinking a lot and taking some pauses because I'm just thinking how we should do this. Yeah, let's try to make an example. We need to set up some stuff for the score here, so that it actually aligns all the ranks down here and the name here and the score here. So create a new grid layout group here, and then we need to set up some padding and stuff, and we need to set up some different cell sizes and stuff. So basically just put in some numbers here. Let's try 170, 0, 10 and 10. I think that's what I did last time. And the cell size was 145, and let's try 11 here. And spacing, no spacing in the x-axis and spacing in the y-axis. Yeah, let's try to do this. If we go to the titles here, we have rank, score, and name, and that's exactly what we also need underneath here. So basically we can duplicate the titles by right-clicking, click duplicate, and rename the title to score, just in a singular, just one score. This score is going to be our score that we're showing to the player. So we can take the score here and make a prefab of it by just dragging it into our asset folder here, so we have it. Then we're going to take the score and we're going to place it underneath the scores. And then you can see it popped down here underneath the name, rank, and score, just a little to the right. And the reason that it's not placed correctly is because we need to adjust the scores grid layout here. So as you can see here, if we adjust the lift, we will see that it fits there. So now if you adjust the lift to the number that you want, or the number that fits your screen, well then you should make sure that everything is aligned like this. So name is aligned with name and score is aligned with score. Then we'll need to change the rank into a rank, for example, #1, this. And then we'll need to change the score to a score, let's just say 100, just to test this. And we'll need to change the name into something, let's call Joe scored this. Okay, so now we have a rank, a name, and a score. So we might as well make this into the prefab by taking the score and dragging it down here. So this is what is going to happen when we fill up the score. We will do from the code, we will duplicate this basically, or we will add lots of scores like this. In our game, we'll keep adding them by reading the database, and at some point we'll have read all the scores that we need, and then they're written out here on the screen for us. So now we actually have the functionality for adding scores to our games that we can show them to the player. So let's real quick try to add the functionality for showing these scores to the player. So because now we have set up everything out here in the UI, so we can simply go into our script here, and we can create a new function. See here, and we are going to call this function public void show private void show scores. And in this score function, we are going to say we're going to make a for loop, and we are going to run it. How many times are we going to run it? Going to run it for high scores dot length count. Yeah. So we're going to run through every single score we have in our high score list. So if we have 10 scores in our high score list, we're going to show 10 scores to the player. Later we are going to make some restrictions so that we can tell the high score only to show 5 scores, even though it has 10 scores, for example. We need to make a prefab up here in the not down here, up in our fields. We'll have to make a prefab public game object called score prefab. That's the one we just made, so let's save this. And we need to instantiate that score prefab, so we have to say game object temp object equals instantiate score prefab. And then we have to make a new high score, temporary score. It's equal to high scores I. So what we are going to do here is that we are going to create a new high score because we just loaded everything from the database and placed everything from the database inside the high scored list. And we're going to take each high score there and put it into a high score script here so that we can, not a high score object here, so that we can show it to the player. That's basically what we're doing. Then we're going to say temp object That get component score script high score. What should we call it? Let's call it high score script. That's a script we need to create. So basically we need to add a new class. I just forgot about that. So go to your Unity project and go to scripts folder and right click and click create and click script and call it high score script. So this script is going to be the script that is going to sit on our score prefab here. So you might as well add component and write high score and add the high score script to the high score to the score prefab here, because that's gonna reflect the text and everything written in here when we get a new score. See if I have it correctly. High score script there. And then I'll have to add a function to that high score script before we can do more. So let's just outcomment this and go to the high score script. And inside that high score script, we'll have to create a new function called set score and stuff. So inside the script, we are going to make a public game object called score and public game object called score name and public game object called rank. We're going to make public function called set score. So this function is going to set the score. When we load from the database, we're going to tell this score what it needs to show to the player. So it needs a string name, string score, and string rank. And the reason that everything is strings is because we are writing it in text to the player. Even though a score normally is integer, we'll need to set it as text. So the point is that this prefab, let's see, to get here, this prefab is going to have these, let's see, zoom out, yes. It's going to have score, which has the high score script on it. Then it's going to have rank, score, and name. And if I just jump in here and save one more time and jump back into Unity, then you'll see that these will pop up. So the score here has to be linked to the score on the prefab. Not that one. The score has to be linked on the score, and the name has to be linked to the score name, and the rank has to be linked to the rank. Okay, so now inside the script here, we have, sorry, just clicked the wrong button. Inside the score here, we have 3 references, one to the score, one to the score name, one to the rank. And we can set the text on those objects from within there by taking the rank, for example, and changing the rank text here, taking the score and changing the score text here, and changing the name text. So that's basically what this script is going to do. It's going to make sure that the score shows the correct, when we pop in a score like this in the game, it's going to make sure that we can change the rank to 10 if we are at position 10, for example. Let's just delete this again. So if we jump back into the script, then we'll have to set this dot rank that get component text. And what we just did is that we are trying to get the component on the text on the game object. So we say rank, and we're getting this text component right here. And then we are changing the text to the correct rank to show. So if you can't read the text, you'll have to go up here and say, using Unity Engine, that's UI, there we go. Then the text should light up here, and then text equals rank. And then you have to do the exact same thing with the score and the name. So let's take the name first. Name, text. And let's take the rank after. See what's wrong here. No, it's because it's name. It's of course a score name up here. There we go. So now we are setting. Now we have a function. Now we have a function for setting the visual text for the player so that he can see what score he just got. Let's go to the highscore manager here and back to the highscore manager. So now we can actually set the text, because this instantiate here is going to create the text for us. Now when we say show scores, we're going to run through every single score we have in our highscore list, and we are going to instantiate them so that we can see them in our game. So we are going to say set score, and then we're going to say temporary temporary score dot name temp score dot score, and then we're going to add one of these to make sure that it's score plus I plus 1 to string. Okay. So I think I need to I need to set this one to string so that it gets a string instead of an integer. Okay, so we are calling the set score function we just created in here, and we are giving a name, score, and rank with it so that we can show it to the player. The name is simply a string, so we can give that in right there. The score is an integer, so we need to change it into a string because we are asking for a string here. And then we are going to write this hashtag here so that we can show it's a rank. And then we're going to write I plus 1 to string. So this is going to show the rank to the player because this one starts at 0. And we don't want to show rank 0, we want to show rank 1 and above. So it's going to be 0 plus 1, which is 1, and then 1 plus 1, which is 2, and so on. So it's going to write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. But if we look in Unity here, we need to make sure that when we create a score just like this in our game, like this, we'll need to show it. And right now, if we just instantiate it like this, it's not going to be shown. It needs to be a child object of scores here. And so we need to make some code that makes sure that scores gets placed under score here so that we can see it in our game just like this. So let's just delete this one again. So we can actually try to run it to see how it doesn't work. Save this. And let's try to call get scores first. And let's see, get scores is there. So we can we don't need to delete a score. We don't need to get scores again. So let's just, what did I call it? Show scores. Let's just call show scores from our start. Show scores. And let's try to save and run our game. Not in full screen. Oops, okay, I haven't assigned developer. So of course you need to go to your scores. Sorry, not scores, the highscore manager here, and it needs a score prefab. So take the score prefab and drag it onto the highscore manager. If we run the game again, you'll see that it instantiates a score clone here, but that's not good enough. It needs to be instantiated underneath the scores here. So we need to go back into our script, all the way down here, and underneath this we'll have to write temp object that transform that set parent, and we need to set the parent to scores parent transform, I think I would call it. So we need to access the transform of the scores parent, so we can simply go up here and say public transform score parent, then go down here and say set parent score parent. So if we save this and jump back into Unity, then you'll see that it also needs a parent here, and the parent we want is the scores here, so just drag it down here. And if we play the game now, you'll see that it places Joe with 100 points on rank 1, but you can see that it's a little misplaced here. It's not placed right underneath our score, name, or rank, and that's because it is scaled down. If you select the scores here, you'll see that the scale is 0.9, 0.9, and 0.9. It actually needs to be 1, 1, 1. If it is that, then it actually fits the scale here. So what do we need to do to fix that? Well, we can go to our script and set it to temp object that get component rect transform. If I could hit my keys here, apparently I can't. That local scale equals new vector 3 1 1 1. So what this does is that it takes the score here and it accesses the rect transform, and it sets the scale, local scale, to 1 and 1 and 1. So if we play the game now, you'll see that it places Joe with the name Joe here with 100 in score. And just to test it again, we can just add one more score here. We can insert Kenneth as well with let's say 10 points. Save this and run the game again. And boom, we have Joe at rank 1 and Kenneth at rank 1 with 100 points. But I only set me in with 10 points, so why does it show 100? Let's try to have a look at the position where I'm setting stuff. Highscore script. Yeah, okay, there's mistake. I guess I was a little too fast copy pasting. I'm setting the rank twice, I'm never setting the score. So I will need to say this dot score get component and so on is equal to score. Okay, let's try to save and go back into Unity and let's try to run it again. Let's see. And there we have it. So we have Joe with 100 points, number 1, and Kenneth with 10 points as number 2. Yes, I think I'm running out of time for this part. In the next part, we are going to have a look at how we can sort these high scores, because right now they are not sorted correctly. Because if I would go in here and I would add myself again or someone else, let's say Hans, and he should have like 1,000 points. Save it. If I run it, there's no sorting of this. As you can see here, he's still placed at number 3, even though he has way more points than the 2 others. So we'll have to add some sorting functionality next.